Sometimes a small mistake can feel like it set your whole world on fire, especially when it involves family. That's me yesterday, thinking I was just helping with lunch prep, only to let a batch of muffins bake too long and spark a blowout. With my mom, that's left me questioning our relationship and my living situation. This is the story of how a moment of forgetfulness turned into a silent treatment standoff, pushing me to rethink my future. It's a tale of burnt muffins, raw emotions, and the weight of unintended consequences. Buckle up, because this one's a roller coaster of guilt and growth. It all started with what should have been a simple task. My mom was making muffins for lunch, a family favorite, blueberry with a hint of vanilla, the kind that fills the house with a cozy smell. She's the queen of the kitchen, and I'm usually just the assistant tasked with small jobs like setting the table or, in this case, keeping an eye on the oven. She'd pop the muffin tray in, set the timer for 20 minutes, and asked me to watch it while she ran to the store for some last-minute groceries. "Just take them out when the timer goes off," she said, and I nodded, thinking, no problem. I was scrolling on my phone, half paying attention, and figured I'd hear the timer when it beeped. Big mistake. The timer went off, but I was deep in a Reddit thread, headphones on, and didn't notice. By the time I smelled something slightly off, acrid, not the usual muffin sweetness, another 5 or 10 minutes had passed. I bolted to the oven, yanked open the door, and found the muffins looking like they'd been to a tanning salon. The tops were dark brown, verging on black but not charred to a crisp. I pulled them out, hoping they were salvageable, and cut one open. The inside was still moist, golden, and honestly pretty decent. Edible, if not Instagram-worthy. I thought, okay, not a total disaster. Mom won't mind. Then my mom got home. She walked into the kitchen, saw the muffins, and her face went from tired to furious in a split second. "What happened?" she snapped, picking up a muffin like it was evidence in a crime scene. I tried to explain. "I missed the timer, but they're still okay inside." But she wasn't having it. "I asked you for one thing," she said, her voice rising. "Do you know how much work I put into this? You can't even pay attention for 20 minutes?" I stood there shrinking as she went off about responsibility, respect, and how I always mess things up. I apologized over and over, but it was like talking to a wall. She stormed off, leaving the muffins on the counter and me in a cloud of guilt. The rest of the day was a silent torture. My mom didn't say she was done with me, but her cold shoulder said plenty. She barely looked at me, answered my questions with grunts, and spent the evening in her room. I tried to make it right, cleaned the kitchen, offered to bake a new batch, but she brushed me off. The muffins sat untouched, a constant reminder of my screw-up. I ate one, just to prove they weren't ruined, and it was fine, but it tasted like failure. By bedtime, I was replaying her words, "You can't even pay attention," and wondering if this was about more than just muffins. Our relationship has had its ups and downs, especially since I'm living at home while figuring out my job situation, and this felt like a breaking point. That night, I couldn't sleep. My living situation, still at home, scraping by with part-time work, felt more suffocating than ever. My mom's silent treatment wasn't just about the muffins. It was about her frustration with me, and maybe mine with her. I started Googling ways to make extra money, freelancing, gig apps, anything to save up and move out sooner. I wasn't mad at her, but I was hurt, and I knew I needed to take control of my life to avoid these blowouts. This wasn't just a kitchen mishap. It was a wake-up call about responsibility, family dynamics, and the need to stand on my own. But the story wasn't over. Those muffins had more to teach me, and a twist was coming to put it all in perspective. So I'm still stinging from the fallout of letting my mom's muffins bake too long, turning a simple oversight into a fiery argument and an ongoing silent treatment that's made home feel like a minefield. The guilt over those slightly burnt muffins is pushing me to rethink my living situation and hustle for financial independence. Part 2 is where I try to mend things with my mom, only to realize this fight runs deeper than baked goods, forcing me to confront our strained dynamic and my own role in it. This is a story of apologies, tension, and the slow work of understanding family. Let's dive back in. The day after the muffin meltdown, the silence in our house was deafening. My mom moved through the kitchen like I was invisible, her usual chatter replaced by curt nods or nothing at all. I'd tried to make amends, cleaning the oven, leaving the surviving muffins on a plate with a sorry note, but she ignored it all. The muffins, still edible despite their crispy tops, sat, untouched, a monument to my failure. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, second-guessing every move. Was she mad about the muffins, or was this about something bigger? Living at home while juggling part-time work and job hunts had already strained things. Her sighs when I left, dishes in the sink, my frustration when she nagged about my schedule. The muffins seemed like the spark that lit a fuse we'd both been ignoring. I knew I had to break the ice, but apologizing again felt like shouting into a void. I turned to my older cousin Lena, who's navigated plenty of family drama and always knows how to cut through the noise. Over a video call, I spilled the whole story. The burnt muffins, Mom's outburst, the silent treatment. "It's not just the muffins, is it?" Lena said, sipping her coffee. "You're both stressed. She's probably feeling unappreciated. And you're feeling trapped. You gotta talk, but not just about baking." She suggested I approach Mom calmly, acknowledge her feelings, and show I'm taking responsibility. Not just for the oven, but for our bigger tensions. And maybe don't mention the muffins, she added with a grin. Let her bring it up. Armed with Lena's advice, I waited for the right moment. That evening, Mom was in the living room, flipping through a magazine with a forced focus that screamed, "I'm still mad." I took a deep breath and sat across from her. "Hey Mom, can we talk?" I said, keeping my voice soft. "I'm really sorry for letting you down. I know you work hard, and I should have been more on top of things. I want to make this better." She didn't look up right away, but her shoulders relaxed slightly. After a long pause, she said, "It's not just the muffins. You're here, but you're not here. I feel like I'm doing everything, and you're just floating." Her words hit like a punch. She wasn't just mad about lunch. She felt taken for granted, and I hadn't seen it. I nodded, swallowing, the urge to defend myself. "I get that," I said. "I've been caught up in my own stuff, and I haven't been pulling my weight. I'm gonna do better." I mentioned my job search and plans to save for a place, hoping she'd see I was trying to step up. She sighed, finally meeting my eyes. "I just want you to be responsible," she said. "Not just for me, for you." It wasn't a full reconciliation. Her tone was still sharp, but it was a crack in the wall. She didn't mention the muffins, and neither did I, but I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe we could move past this, if I showed her I meant it. To prove it, I started small. Doing dishes without being asked, helping with dinner, keeping my job applications on track. I also researched side hustles, online tutoring, freelance writing, anything to boost my savings and move out faster. But the silent treatment didn't vanish overnight. Mom was warmer some days, cold others, and I sensed this wasn't just about me. She had her own stresses, work, bills, maybe even worries about me leaving home. I was learning that family fights aren't always about the surface issue. They're about what's simmering underneath. This muffin mess was a symptom, not the disease, and fixing it would take more than an apology. But the story wasn't done with me yet. Just when I thought I was making progress, a moment was coming that would shift my perspective and show me what rebuilding with Mom really required. Hang on, because the next chapter's got a twist that'll make you rethink those kitchen arguments and what they're really about. So, I'm still navigating the tense aftermath of letting my mom's muffins bake too long, sparking a blowout that's left our home thick with silent treatment and unspoken frustrations. I've apologized, started pulling my weight around the house, and I'm hustling to save money for my own place. But the rift with my mom feels like it's about more than just burnt baked goods. Part 3 is where I dig deeper into our dynamic, hoping to mend things, only to stumble into a moment that reveals the real roots of our conflict. This is a story of empathy, discovery, and learning that family tensions often hide bigger truths. Let's keep going. The days after my heart-to-heart with Mom were a fragile balancing act. I was trying to show I'd changed, doing chores proactively, applying for better jobs, researching side hustles like selling old clothes online, but her mood swung unpredictably. Some mornings she'd chat lightly about her day. Others she'd barely acknowledge me, her silence louder than any lecture. I kept Lena's advice in mind. This wasn't just about muffins. It was about feeling unappreciated on both sides. I sensed Mom was carrying her own burdens, but I didn't know how to reach her without reigniting the fight. The muffins, now stale on the counter, were a daily reminder of how one slip could expose deeper cracks. I decided to lean into consistency, hoping small actions would chip away at the wall between us. I made breakfast one morning, pancakes, her favorite, leaving a plate for her with a smiley face note. She ate them, which felt like a win, but didn't say much. I also started sharing my job hunt progress, casually mentioning interviews or gigs to show I was serious about moving out. Got a call back from that retail job, I'd say, and she'd nod, sometimes adding, "That's good." It wasn't warm, but it was progress, and I clung to it. Still, the silence crept back, and I wondered if I was missing something bigger, something she wasn't saying. To get clarity, I called Lena again, needing her knack for decoding family fights. "She's talking a bit, but it's still off," I said. "What am I doing wrong?" Lena paused, then asked, "Have you asked her what's going on? Not about the muffins, about her life." I blinked, realizing I'd been so focused on fixing my mistake, I hadn't checked in on Mom's world. Lena pointed out that living together as adults can blur boundaries, making small things like burnt muffins feel like personal betrayals. "She might be stressed about more than you know," she said. "Ask, listen, and don't make it about you." It was a light bulb moment. I'd been apologizing, but not connecting. The next evening, I saw my chance. Mom was on the couch scrolling, her phone looking more tired than angry. I sat down, nerves jangling, and said, "Hey Mom, you okay? You seem stressed and I don't want to add to it." She looked surprised, then sighed, setting her phone down. "It's not just you," she said. "Work's been hell. Layoffs are coming and I'm worried about money. And you're here, but you're planning to leave, and it's a lot." Her voice cracked and my heart sank. This wasn't about muffins. It was about her fear of losing stability, maybe even losing me. I'd been so wrapped up in my own guilt I hadn't seen her struggling. "I'm not going anywhere yet," I said, "and I want to help. I'm sorry I've been checked out." We talked for the first time in weeks, really talked, about her job, my plans, how we'd both felt stretched thin. She admitted the muffin fight was a release for her stress, not just about my mistake. "I shouldn't have blown up," she said, "but I need you to step up, not just with chores, but as a partner in this house." I nodded, promising to do better. And for the first time, I felt like we were on the same team, not opponents. This conversation was a turning point, but it wasn't a magic fix. We were both raw, and rebuilding meant more than pancakes and promises. I kept hustling, landing a freelance gig, saving for a deposit, but now with a new goal. Not just moving out, but strengthening us before I did. But a final twist was coming, one that would show me the real power of facing those deeper truths. Stick around, because the last chapter's got a surprise that'll make you rethink those family fights and what they're really teaching you. So, I've been wading through the emotional fallout of letting my mom's muffins bake too long. A small mistake that ignited a major fight, and a silent treatment that exposed deeper tensions in our relationship. I've started stepping up at home, opened up about her stresses, and am working toward financial independence. But rebuilding our bond is a slow process. Part 4 is where this kitchen catastrophe finds its resolution, with a twist that shows me the power of small steps and the strength of family, even when it's messy. This is a story of reconciliation, growth, and a reminder that even burnt muffins can lead to something sweet. Let's bring it home. The weeks after our raw conversation felt like a cautious dance. Mom and I were talking more, not like before, but enough to feel like progress. I kept up my efforts, cooking dinner a few nights, landing a part-time tutoring gig to boost my savings, and checking in on her day without making it about me. Her smiles returned, small but real, and the silent treatment faded, replaced by moments of warmth, like when she left me a coffee on the counter with a "good luck on your interview" note. The muffins were long gone, tossed when they got too stale, but their shadow lingered, a reminder of how close we'd come to a bigger rift. I was learning to see Mom not just as my parent, but as a person with her own fears. Job insecurity, the empty nest looming as I planned to move out. I'd been so focused on my guilt over the muffins I hadn't realized how much she was carrying. Our talk had cracked open that door, and I wanted to keep it open. I started small traditions like watching her favorite cooking show together, laughing at the contestants' flops. It wasn't deep, but it was us, rebuilding. I also pushed harder on my hustle, saving every penny from tutoring and a new freelance writing gig, determined to move out not to escape, but to grow into someone she could rely on. Then came the twist that tied it all together. One Saturday, I came home to find Mom in the kitchen mixing batter, muffins of all things. My heart sank, bracing for a jab about last time, but she looked up and said, "Want to help?" I could use an extra set of eyes on the oven. Her tone was light, almost teasing, and I caught a glint in her eye. I laughed, relief flooding me, and said, "Only if you trust me not to burn them." She smirked. "I'll be watching," and we got to work, measuring flour, folding in blueberries, moving like a team. It was the first time since the fight that things felt normal, not forced. As the muffins baked, we talked, really talked, about her work stress, my job plans, how we'd both felt stretched thin. She admitted she'd overreacted about the muffins, driven by fear that I wasn't ready for the world. "I want you to be okay out there," she said, stirring batter. I told her I was trying, and that living at home had shown me how much I valued her even when we clashed. When the timer dinged, I was on it, pulling out a tray of golden, perfect muffins. We ate one, warm, laughing when I got blueberry on my chin, and it felt like a reset, not just for us, but for me. Those muffins weren't just food, they were a bridge back to each other. The real surprise came a few days later when Mom slipped a check into my hand, part of her savings, she said, to help with my deposit when I'm ready to move. "You're working hard," she said. "I see it. Just don't forget to visit." I hugged her, choking up, realizing this fight had forced us to see each other clearer. The muffins had been a spark, but the fire was ours to put out, and we had. I kept hustling, saving for my own place, but now with a new purpose: to build a life that honors what we've rebuilt, not just to flee the tension. Looking back, this mess taught me more than I expected. A burnt batch of muffins showed me that family fights aren't just about the moment. They're about what's unsaid, the stresses we carry, the love we sometimes fumble. I'm more responsible now, not just with ovens, but with listening, showing up, owning my part. Mom and I aren't perfect, we'll argue again, I'm sure, but we're stronger for it. I still bake with her sometimes, and I'm obsessive about timers, which makes her laugh. Those muffins, crispy as they were, burned away my excuses and lit a path to something better. Now when I smell blueberries baking, I don't cringe. I smile, knowing even the worst mistakes can lead to growth if you face them head on. Mom's kitchen is still her kingdom, but I'm earning my place in it, one unburnt muffin at a time. And when I move out, I'll bring a tray of her favorites to my new place. A reminder that home is where we learn, fight, and keep coming back. Sometimes a moment of connection feels like destiny, only to reveal itself as a misunderstanding that leaves you questioning your entire existence. That's me, last week, thinking I'd stumbled into a rom-com at the library, only to discover I might have been flirting with someone's girlfriend. This is the story of how a charger loan and a few quips turned into a cringe-worthy realization, sparking a whirlwind of self-doubt and a lesson in reading the room. It's a tale of awkward encounters, wishful thinking, and the fine line between friendly and flirty. Buckle up, because this one's a roller coaster of embarrassment and epiphany. It all went down in the university library where I was holed, up in a hoodie, headphones blaring, cramming for a test I was woefully unprepared for. Picture me, drowning in flashcards and regret, when a girl at the next table, cute, nose ring, glasses, basically my kryptonite, tapped my shoulder. "Hey, do you have a charger?" she asked, her smile disarming. My brain, already fried from studying, short-circuited. Instead of a normal "sure," I blurted, "Yeah, but it charges slowly and like my brain." Why? I don't know. Maybe I thought I was auditioning for a sitcom. To my shock, she laughed. A real laugh, not a pity chuckle, and I felt like I just won the lottery. I handed her my charger and we started chatting. Her name was Mia, name changed to save my dignity, and she was prepping for law school, tossing around Latin terms like mens rea that I nodded at like I understood. I played it cool, throwing in self-deprecating jokes about my study habits, and she kept laughing, asking about my major, my music taste. It wasn't a date, but it felt sparky. We swapped numbers so she could text when her phone was charged, and I left the library on a high, saving her contact as library crush like a hopeless romantic. In my head, this was fate, a meet-cute, straight out of a movie. I even daydreamed about asking her for coffee, picturing us bonding over bad study snacks. Fast forward to yesterday and reality slapped me awake. I was back at the library hoping to casually run into Mia when I spotted her across the room. My heart did a little flip until I saw her walking hand in hand with a guy. Not just any hand-holding, but the clingy, "I'll hug you while we walk" kind that screams couple. She was all smiles, leaning into him, and I felt my stomach drop. Then she saw me, our eyes locked, and she gave me the most awkward smile in human history, like she'd been caught shoplifting my dignity. I managed a weak nod, turned back to my laptop, and pretended to study while my brain screamed, "Bro, were you the side?" Quest. The rest of the day was a spiral of overthinking. Had I misread everything? Was Mia just being polite when she laughed at my jokes? Was I just the free charger guy, a pit stop in her library grind? Or, worst case scenario, had I accidentally stumbled into someone's relationship drama without even a kiss to show for it? I replayed our chat, her smile, her questions, the number swap. It felt flirty, but maybe I'd projected my crush onto her friendliness. The library crush contact in my phone now felt like a neon sign of my delusion. I deleted it, vowing to pretend the whole thing was a dream, but the embarrassment clung like damp laundry. This wasn't just a funny mix-up. It was a wake-up call about assumptions, signals, and the chaos of human connection. I'd thought I was starring in a love story, but I might have been an extra in someone else's. The library was no longer my study haven. It was a crime scene of my social missteps. But the story wasn't over. That awkward smile was about to spark a lesson I didn't see coming, one that would change how I navigate crushes and charger loans. Stick around, because the next chapter's got a twist that'll make you rethink those fleeting library vibes. So I'm still cringing from my library encounter where I thought I'd had a meet-cute with a girl named Mia, only to spot her days later clinging to her boyfriend in a way that screamed, "You're not the main character." Her awkward smile and my deleted library crush contact left me spiraling, questioning if I'd misread her friendliness as flirting or worse, stumbled into someone's relationship drama. Part 2 is where I try to shake off the embarrassment and figure out what really happened, only to learn that human signals are messy and assumptions are a trap. This is a story of overthinking, clarity, and a lesson in keeping my romantic fantasies in check. Let's dive back in. The days after spotting Mia with her boyfriend were a masterclass in self-inflicted torture. I couldn't stop replaying our library chat, her laugh, the number swap, the way she asked about my music taste. It had felt like something, but now I was second-guessing every detail. Was she just being nice? Was I the oblivious charger guy, reading romance into a transaction? I even wondered if I'd come off as creepy, some rando hitting on her while she was just trying to study. The thought made my skin crawl. I avoided the library like it was haunted, opting for noisy coffee shops to cram. But the memory of her awkward smile followed me like a bad pop song. To snap out of it, I confided in my roommate Sam, who's got a knack for cutting through my drama. Over cheap pizza, I spilled the whole story. The charger, the banter, the boyfriend bombshell. "Dude, you didn't flirt. You loaned a charger and made a bad joke," Sam said, laughing. "She probably thought you were chill, not trying to steal her from some guy." His take was a relief, but I wasn't convinced. "What about the number swap?" I asked. "That's not just chill, right?" Sam shrugged. "Could be friendly, could be flirty. Girls don't always draw a line. You're overthinking it. Just don't text her, and you're fine." His advice was blunt. Let it go, move on, and stop casting myself as the villain in a soap opera. Sam's words helped, but I needed more context. I started Googling how to tell if someone's flirting, which led to a rabbit hole of conflicting advice. Eye contact means interest, but also maybe not. Laughing at jokes is a sign, unless they're just polite. It was useless, like trying, to decode an alien language. I also reflected on my own signals. My slow brain quip was meant to be funny, not a pickup line, but maybe it came off as trying too hard. And saving her number as library crush? That was me projecting, not her inviting it. I was starting to see how my crush-tinted glasses had skewed the whole interaction. To test the waters, I went back to the library, not to stalk Mia, but to reclaim my study spot and prove I wasn't a coward. I kept my head down, headphones on, but my heart skipped when I saw her at a far table, alone this time. No boyfriend, just her and a stack of law books. She glanced up, gave a small wave, and went back to her work. No awkward smile, no death glare, just neutral. I waved back, then focused on my notes, resisting the urge to overanalyze. It felt like a tiny victory, like we'd silently agreed to pretend the vibe was never weird. But I didn't text her or approach. Sam was right. No need to stir up drama where there probably wasn't any. This whole mess was teaching me something, though. I'd jumped from "she's cute" to "this is fate" without checking reality, and that leap had left me embarrassed and paranoid. I started noticing how often I did this, reading too much into smiles, casual chats, or friendly gestures. Mia wasn't my soulmate or a relationship wrecker. She was just a person who needed a charger and liked my dumb joke. But the story wasn't over. A chance encounter was about to shed new light on that library moment, showing me how to laugh at myself and let go for real. Stick around, because the next chapter's got a twist that'll make you rethink those fleeting crushes. So I'm still untangling the mess from thinking I had a flirty moment with Mia in the library, only to see her with her boyfriend days later, leaving me paranoid that I misread her friendliness or worse, stepped into relationship drama. I've backed off, deleted her number, and started questioning my habit of turning every smile into a rom-com. But the embarrassment lingers. Part 3 is where I try to move on, only to stumble into a moment that forces me to face my assumptions head on and rethink how I read people. This is a story of clarity, growth, and learning that not every spark is a love story. Let's keep going. The library incident had me in a funk, avoiding my usual study spot and overanalyzing every past interaction with Mia. Was I a creep? A clueless flirt? Or just a guy who loaned a charger and got carried away? My roommate Sam's advice, "You didn't do anything wrong, just let it go," was logical, but I couldn't shake the feeling I'd missed some obvious cue. I started noticing how often I'd done this before. A barista's friendly chat, a classmate's laugh, all spun into, "Maybe she likes me" in my head. It wasn't just Mia, it was a pattern, and this cringe fest was a chance to break it. I vowed to chill, keep things friendly, and stop projecting my hopes onto strangers. To ground myself, I focused on studying and my social circle, steering clear of the library's haunted vibes. I hung out with Sam and our friends, who teased me about library crush but kept it light. One night over wings, I opened up about my spiral. "I thought it was a moment," I said, "but she's got a boyfriend. Now I feel like an idiot." My friend Jess, who's brutally honest, chimed in. "You weren't flirting, you were being you. Some people are just warm and you read it wrong. It's not a crime, but maybe don't save every number as crush." Everyone laughed and I felt lighter. Jess's take was a wake-up call. Not every connection is romantic, and I needed to stop assuming intent where there was none. I also did some soul-searching about why this hit so hard. I wasn't in love with Mia, I barely knew her, but the idea of a meet cute had hooked me. I'd been single for a while, stressed about school, and maybe I was chasing a spark to feel alive. Realizing that made me ease up on myself. I wasn't a villain, I was just human, lonely, and a bit too quick to dream. I started journaling to sort out my feelings, noting when I felt that spark with others and checking if it was real or just my imagination. It was nerdy, but it helped me slow down and think before I leaped. Then, a test of my new resolve. I was at a campus coffee shop studying when Mia walked in. Alone, no boyfriend. My heart did a traitor's flip, but I stayed cool, giving a polite nod when she waved. She grabbed her coffee and, to my surprise, stopped by my table. "Hey, charger guy," she said, smiling. "Still failing that test?" It was playful, not flirty, and I matched her vibe. "Nah, I'm a solid C- now," I joked. We chatted for a minute. School, her law prep, before she left. No numbers, no sparks, just a normal exchange. I didn't overthink it, and it felt like closure. Proof I could talk to her without writing a mental love story. This moment was a small win, but it showed me I was learning. I'd misread Mia's friendliness, but I hadn't crossed any lines, just my own expectations. I was starting to see the difference between kindness and interest, and it was freeing. But the story wasn't done. A chance encounter was about to bring Mia back into my orbit, offering a final lesson in letting go and laughing at my own heart's missteps. Stick around, because the last chapter's got a twist that'll make you smile and rethink those coffee shop glances. So, I've been wrestling with the fallout of mistaking a friendly library chat with Mia for a flirty connection, only to see her with her boyfriend and spiral into a pit of overthinking. I've learned to dial back my romantic projections, keep interactions chill, and laugh at my own missteps, but the sting of that awkward smile lingers. Part 4 is where this cringeworthy saga wraps up, with a twist that turns my embarrassment into a lesson in perspective and self-acceptance. This is a story of closure, growth, and a reminder that not every spark needs to ignite a flame. Let's close the book. After my brief coffee shop chat with Mia, I felt like I'd reclaimed some dignity. It was just a normal exchange. No overanalyzing, no library crush fantasies, and it proved I could move past the incident without turning it into a Greek tragedy. I leaned into my new approach: keep things friendly, check my assumptions, and stop treating every smile as a plot twist. I was back to studying at the library, headphones on, focusing on my grades instead of scanning for Mia. My friends, especially Jess, kept me grounded, joking about my charger guy saga, but cheering my progress. I was starting to see the humor in it, even if my ego was still a bit bruised. Then came the moment that tied it all together. I was at a campus open mic night, dragged there by Sam to support a friend's terrible stand-up routine. The room was packed, and halfway through I spotted Mia across the crowd, not with her boyfriend but with a group of friends, laughing at a poet's dramatic reading. My first instinct was to duck, but I caught myself. No need to hide, I thought. "You're not the villain." To my surprise, she saw me and waved, not awkwardly this time, but genuinely. After the set, she came over, drink in hand, and said, "Didn't expect to see you here. Survived that test yet?" Her tone was easy, like we were old study buddies, not star-crossed strangers. We talked for a bit, about the open mic, her law school stress, my ongoing battle with flashcards. Then out of nowhere, she mentioned the library day. "You were a lifesaver with that charger," she said, smiling. "My phone was dead and I was freaking out about a deadline. You made it fun though." I froze, waiting for the "but you got the wrong idea" shoe to drop, but it didn't. Instead, she added, "My boyfriend thought it was hilarious when I told him about your slow brain line." My jaw nearly hit the floor. She'd told her boyfriend and he laughed? Suddenly, my mental image of myself as a homewrecker or creepy flirt dissolved. I'd been a guy who helped her out, made her laugh, and that was it. No drama, no side quest. I laughed, relief washing over me. "Glad I could entertain," I said, keeping it light. We chatted a bit more before she rejoined her friends and I rejoined mine, feeling like a weight had lifted. That conversation was the closure I didn't know I needed. Mia hadn't been flirting, but she also hadn't thought I was out of line. I'd built a whole narrative in my head: fate, betrayal, embarrassment, when the truth was simpler. She was a cool person, I was a helpful stranger, and life moved on. Her boyfriend's amusement was the cherry on top, Proof that my flirting was just a funny anecdote in their world, not a scandal. This tiny moment shifted everything. I'd spent weeks beating myself up, but now I could laugh at the absurdity of saving her number as library crush and dodging the library like a fugitive. I started approaching interactions with less pressure, enjoying chats without scripting a love story in my head. I even got better at reading cues, asking friends for a reality check if I felt that spark again. My journal, once a log of overanalyzed crushes, became a place to write about goals like acing my next test or saving for a summer trip. I wasn't swearing off romance, just learning to let it find me instead of chasing it in every smile. The twist, Mia's casual mention of her boyfriend, showed me that the only drama was in my mind. I'd turned a charger loan into a saga, but the real story was about growing up, owning my mistakes, and finding humor in my heart's misfires. I'm back to vibing at the library, headphones on, ready for the next test. If Mia needs a charger, again I'll loan it with a grin, no strings attached. And if I ever feel that fate tingle, I'll pause, laugh, and remind myself, sometimes a spark is just a spark, and that's okay. Sometimes a culinary triumph can turn into a family feud, especially when emotions and expectations get baked into the mix. That's me, a 17-year-old aspiring chef, thinking I'd nailed a key lime pie during spring break, only to spark a blowout, with my grandma over who got a slice or didn't. This is the story of how my solo pie-eating adventure became a battle of wills, gaslighting, and a push to stand my ground while chasing my dreams. It's a tale of sugar, stubbornness, and the messy dynamics of family under one roof. Buckle up, because this one's a zesty ride through kitchen chaos and personal growth. I'm a high school senior, already accepted into a culinary arts college, with big dreams of becoming a chef. I live with my mom, who's in the military and often deployed, my 5-year-old brother, and my grandma, who's in her 80s, and frankly, not my favorite person. We've clashed since I was a kid, and now, with Mom heading out to sea again, Grandma's my guardian, our only option, but not ideal. She's diabetic, rarely eats my cooking, and her mood swings keep me on edge. My brother's been acting out, targeting me with pranks, so I made a deal. Behave, and I'll bake you pie. He didn't, so I didn't, a choice I cleared with Mom, my sister, and even a subreddit which called me a jerk, but not the worst. Spring break was my chance to hone my baking skills, a weak spot where my sweets taste great but look off, details that matter in a chef's world. With prom's dessert theme looming, I picked 3 recipes to master: key lime pie, yogurt parfait, and chewy caramel candy. I wanted to impress, maybe even charm a date with my skills. Normally, Mom or Grandma buys ingredients, but I had a hunch Grandma might guilt trip me into sharing with my brother, so I funded this myself. I did chores for Mom, earning $30 plus an extra $20 for a sparkling garage. My Aunt C tossed in $20, giving me $70 to score a deal on pie supplies. I got to work on the key lime pie, my first solo attempt outside class. Using a store-bought crust, because tackling dough is a future me problem. I mixed the batter, feeling like a pro. Grandma came in, fresh from a smoke break, on the phone with Aunt E. She saw my setup, complimented it, and I offered her a slice to be, knowing she rarely eats my food. She declined, as expected. I texted Mom my plan: no pie for my brother due to his behavior, and offered a Grandma, who said no. Mom was cool with it. While baking, I asked Grandma for tips. She's made pies before, and she said to let it cool. I offered again. She said no again. I've got autism, so I stick to a rule: ask twice, once before, and once after cooking, and the second answer is final. No begging. The pie turned out great. Maybe needed 5 more minutes, but the flavor was zingy, the texture creamy. I was proud, especially since I'd funded it myself. I saved half for Mom's mini fridge, as she requested, and dug into the rest with a can of whipped cream, savoring my victory. It was a small crust, not a feast, but I felt like a king. Then Grandma woke up, saw me eating, and flipped. "You didn't offer me any," she snapped, claiming I'd excluded her and my brother. I reminded her I'd asked twice, with Aunt E on the phone as a witness, but she insisted I hadn't. She stormed out, saying she'd buy them a pie, and I better not touch it. I was livid. She'd been gaslighting me for months, twisting my words, making me doubt my memory. I texted Mom, Aunt E, and my sister, who all backed me up. I'd offered, she'd declined, and I wasn't wrong to stand firm. This wasn't just about pie. It was about boundaries, respect, and a grandma whose memory issues or stubbornness were making life harder. I refused to grovel, especially since I'd paid for it all. Mom suggested sharing her half to keep the peace, but I held my ground. Love you, Mom, but Grandma's mad either way. You deserve it. I was done bending to her flip-flopping moods, but the fight wasn't over. That pie was about to serve up a bigger lesson, one that would push me closer to my dreams and my independence. Stick around because the next chapter's got a twist that'll make you rethink family feuds and key lime triumphs. So I'm still reeling from the drama of baking a key lime pie, eating it myself, and sparking a showdown with my grandma, who claimed I never offered her a slice despite my 2 clear offers witnessed by my aunt on the phone. Her gaslighting and lecture about my disrespect have me fuming, especially since I funded the pie with my own chore money to avoid her guilt trips. Part 2 is where I try to navigate this family tension, hold my boundaries, and keep my culinary dreams alive while living under her roof. This is a story of defiance, doubt, and a step toward independence in a house full of frayed nerves. Let's dig back in. The morning after Grandma's pie rant, the house felt like a Cold War zone. She shuffled around, ignoring me, her silence louder than any scolding. My brother, oblivious to the drama, kept pestering for snacks, and I stuck to my no pie rule, reminding him of our deal: behave or no treats. I checked in with Mom via text, updating her on Grandma's claim that I'd snubbed her. Mom was sympathetic but practical. She's old, her memory's spotty. Try to keep the peace, but I get why you're mad. Her support was a lifeline, but her suggestion to share her half of the pie with Grandma and my brother felt like a compromise I wasn't ready for. I wanted to stand my ground. This was my pie, my money, my call. I turned to my sister Emma for a reality check. She's older, moved out, and knows how to handle Grandma's mood swings. Over a call, I vented. She's gaslighting me, saying I didn't offer when I did twice, and now I'm the bad guy. Emma sighed. Grandma's always been like this, her way or no way. Her memory's not great, but she also loves control. You did right by offering, but don't expect her to admit she's wrong. Emma's advice was to keep my boundaries but avoid escalation. You're stuck there till Mom's back or you get that dorm, she said. Pick your battles and focus on your cooking. That's your ticket out. Her words lit a fire under me. My culinary arts college acceptance was my future, and no pie fight was going to derail it. To clear my head, I dove back into baking, tackling the yogurt parfait for my prom dessert project. I used my leftover ingredients, layering creamy yogurt with granola and berries, focusing on presentation, my weak spot. Grandma stayed out of the kitchen, which was a relief, but her earlier words gnawed at me. Disrespectful. Never offered. Had I been too harsh? Was I wrong to eat the pie myself? My autism makes me stick to clear rules like my 2-offer system, but maybe I'd misread her expectations. I double-checked with Aunt E, who'd been on the phone during the offer. You asked, she said no, Aunt E confirmed. She's just mad you didn't beg. That validation helped, but the doubt lingered, a side effect of months of Grandma's gaslighting making me question my own memory. I decided to test the waters with Grandma, not about the pie, but something neutral. I offered to make her tea, a small gesture to ease the tension. She accepted, grumbling, but didn't bring up the pie, and I didn't either. It wasn't a truce, but it was a start. Meanwhile, I kept hustling for independence, researching dorm costs and applying for a scholarship to cover them. My tutoring gig was bringing in extra cash, and I sold some old video games online, every dollar a step toward freedom. Cooking remained my anchor. I practiced my caramel candy recipe, tweaking the texture, dreaming of nailing it for prom. But the house still felt like a pressure cooker, and I knew another clash was inevitable if Grandma kept rewriting history. This pie fight was more than a family spat. It was about claiming my space in a dynamic where I felt dismissed. I wasn't just fighting for a slice. I was fighting for my voice, my future, and the right to trust my own reality. But the story wasn't over. A moment was coming that would test my resolve and show me what it really takes to rise above the chaos. Hang on, because the next chapter's got a twist that'll make you rethink those kitchen standoffs and what they're really baking. So, I'm still caught in the crossfire of a family feud sparked by my key lime pie, which I ate myself after my grandma declined 2 clear offers, only to later claim I'd snubbed her and my misbehaving brother. Her gaslighting and accusations of disrespect have me holding firm but questioning myself, while I push toward culinary school and independence. Part 3 is where I try to keep the peace without caving, only to stumble into a moment that reveals the deeper roots of our conflict and my own path forward. This is a story of resilience, revelation, and learning that family fights are often about more than a single slice. Let's keep rolling. The tension with Grandma didn't ease up after our tea truce. She'd swing between ignoring me and dropping snide comments like, "Some people only cook for themselves," as she passed the kitchen. I bit my tongue, focusing on my baking, perfecting the caramel candies chew for prom, while doubling down on my hustle for dorm funds. My tutoring gigs were steady, and I'd sold more old stuff online, each dollar a step away from this house. But her gaslighting was relentless, making me doubt my memory of the pie offers, despite Aunt E's confirmation. I started recording, our talks on my phone, just notes for myself to anchor my reality. It felt extreme, but months of her twisting my words had me on edge. I leaned on Emma for more advice, texting her about Grandma's latest jab. "She's acting like I'm the worst for not begging her to eat my pie," I wrote. Emma replied, "She's not just mad about the pie. She's mad you're growing up and don't need her approval. Plus, her memory's shaky. She might genuinely believe her version." Emma suggested a heart-to-heart, not to win the pie fight, but to understand Grandma's side. "She's old, alone, and probably scared," she said. "Talk to her, but don't expect a fairy tale. Keep your eyes on culinary school." Her words shifted my perspective. I'd been so focused on defending my boundaries, I hadn't considered Grandma's fears, or how my push for independence might feel to her. Waited for a calm moment, catching Grandma in the living room knitting while my brother napped. "Can we talk?" I asked, sitting across from her. "I don't want us fighting over pie or anything else. I did offer you some twice, but I'm sorry if I upset you." Her face tightened, but she didn't interrupt. "I'm trying to be better for Mom, for you, for me. What's going on with you?" She was quiet for so long I thought she'd ignore me, but then she spoke, her voice low. "You're always against me," she said. "You and your mom acting like I'm useless. I'm here watching you both and you don't care." It wasn't about the pie. It was about feeling sidelined, invisible in a family moving forward, without her. I was stunned. I'd seen her as controlling, but she felt powerless, stuck raising us while Mom was away. Her memory lapses, maybe from age or stress, weren't intentional gaslighting. They were her reality clashing with mine. "I do care," I said, "but I need you to hear me too. I'm trying to grow, not push you away." We didn't hug it out, she's not that grandma, but she nodded, muttering, "Just don't eat all the food." It wasn't peace, but it was progress, a crack in the wall. I promised to include her more, like asking her to taste test my next dish, and she seemed to soften, if only a little. This talk was a turning point, but not a fix-all. I kept cooking, nailing the yogurt parfait's layers, and saved more for my dorm. But now, with a new lens, Grandma wasn't my enemy, just a person struggling like me. I still recorded our talks just in case, but I focused on small gestures, making her coffee, asking about her old pie recipes. My brother was trickier. I gave him a parfait when he behaved, reinforcing our deal without caving. But a final moment was coming. One that would show me how to balance my dreams with the family I'm stuck with for now. Stick around, because the last chapter's got a twist that'll make you rethink those kitchen clashes and what they're really cooking up. So, I've been grappling with the fallout from baking a key lime pie and eating it myself, sparking a clash with my grandma, who denied my 2 clear offers of a slice and accused me of disrespect, all while gaslighting me into doubting my memory. Our tense talk revealed her feelings of being sidelined, And I'm trying to balance boundaries with small gestures to keep the peace, all while chasing my culinary dreams and dorm funds. Part 4 is where this pie-fueled saga finds its resolution, with a twist that shows me how to stand tall without burning bridges. This is a story of reconciliation, ambition, and a reminder that even family feuds can season your growth. Let's wrap it up. The days after our living room talk were a cautious thaw. Grandma wasn't suddenly warm and fuzzy. She's not that person. But she stopped throwing shade about the pie, and I kept up small acts of peace, like brewing her coffee or asking about her day. I stuck to my rules with my brother, rewarding good behavior with a caramel candy when he earned it, which kept our deal intact. My focus stayed on cooking, nailing the prom desserts, especially a show-stopping key lime pie with a perfect crust swirl, and saving for my culinary school dorm. My tutoring and online sales were adding up, and a scholarship application looked promising, each step fueling my drive to carve my own path. Then came the moment that brought it all together. Prom was a week away, and I was testing my final pie recipe in the kitchen, determined to make it a crowd pleaser. Grandma wandered in, drawn by the citrusy smell, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't scowl. "Looks better than last time," she said, peering at the pie. I seized the chance, heart pounding. "Want to try it? I'd love your input." I braced for a no, but she hesitated, then nodded. "Just a small piece," she said, citing her diabetes but clearly curious. I cut her a slice, plated it neatly, and watched as she took a bite. Her face softened. "Not bad," she said. "Tart, like my old recipe." It wasn't glowing praise, but from her, it was gold. That tiny moment cracked something open. Over pie we talked, not about our fight, but about her baking days, how she'd made pies for church fairs. She shared a tip about chilling the crust, and I jotted it down, genuinely grateful. I offered a slice to my brother, who'd been good that day, and he grinned, calling it sour but awesome. For a second, the kitchen felt like a team, not a battlefield. I texted Mom a photo of the pie, captioned, "Grandma approved." She replied, "Proud of you, chef, save me a slice." It was the first time since the fight I felt like we were all connected, not just coexisting. The twist came at prom, where my desserts were a hit. My key lime pie with Grandma's crust tip got compliments from classmates and even a teacher who runs a local bakery. She pulled me aside, saying, "You've got talent. Ever thought about a summer job?" My jaw dropped. A bakery gig could cover dorm costs and boost my skills. I said I'd apply, buzzing with possibility. Back home, I told Grandma, expecting her usual grumble, but she surprised me. "Good," she said. "You're stubborn, but you work hard. Don't forget where you started." It wasn't a hug, but it was her way of saying she saw me, and I took it. This pie fight taught me more than any recipe. I thought it was about standing my ground, but it was about understanding Grandma's fears, my brother's chaos, my own need to prove myself. Her memory lapses weren't always gaslighting. Sometimes they were just age, and my frustration had blinded me to her struggle. I kept my boundaries, no rewarding bad behavior, no caving to guilt, but softened them with empathy, like offering her pie again. I'm still saving for that dorm, fueled by the bakery prospect, and cooking keeps me sane, each dish a step toward my chef dreams. Now when I bake, I think of that key lime pie, not as a fight, but as a turning point. Grandma and I aren't best friends, but we're better, sharing coffee and occasional stories. My brother's learning our deal, and Mom's my cheerleader from afar. I've got a notebook full of recipes and a heart full of lessons. Trust your memory, but listen. Hold your ground, but leave room for grace. If I ever make another pie, I'll offer Grandma a slice. Once, maybe twice. And if she says no, I'll eat it proudly, knowing I'm cooking my way to a life that's mine. Sometimes a routine morning can turn into a heart-stopping comedy of errors, especially when technology and a lack of focus collide. That's me, this morning, thinking I was just vibing to music while getting ready, only to nearly send my earbud on a one-way trip to the toilet bowl. This is the story of how a moment of carelessness almost cost me a pricey gadget and taught me a lesson about mindfulness in the bathroom. It's a tale of near misses, quick reflexes, and the perils of mixing earbuds with towel-drying vigor. Buckle up because this one's a wild ride through a soggy misadventure. It all started with my usual morning routine, tweaked to keep things quiet for my wife, who was enjoying a rare lie-in. I love blasting music or podcasts while getting ready. It's my way of turning a mundane shower into a mini concert or TED Talk. But with her sleeping, I opted for my wireless earbuds, popping them in as I headed to the bathroom. I set them on the counter before stepping into the shower, letting the hot water wash away the morning grogginess. Everything was going smoothly. Shower done, body toweled off, and I grabbed my hair towel to dry my mop of hair, still humming the tune I'd been listening to. Feeling fresh, I popped my earbuds back in to resume my podcast, a true crime episode that had me hooked. As I listened, I realized my hair was still a bit damp, so I grabbed the towel again for another round of drying. Here's where my brain took a vacation. With the earbuds snug in my ears, I threw the towel over my head and started rubbing vigorously like I was polishing a car. Mid-rub, I felt a sudden silence in my right ear. A small black object zipped past my peripheral vision, and I looked down just in time to see my right earbud hurtling toward the toilet bowl, which, thank the stars, was open but clean. Time slowed to a crawl. "Oh shit!" screamed my brain as the earbud bounced off the rim, once, twice, 3 times, like a tiny, expensive pinball. My heart was staging a full-blown medical emergency. Heart attack, stroke, aneurysm all at once. By some miracle, the earbud defied gravity and landed on the floor, inches from a watery grave in the Kazi. I stood there, frozen, staring at my $100 gadget lying innocently on the tiles, the podcast still droning in my left ear. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or sacrifice a goat to the gods of dumb luck. I scooped up the earbud, checked it for damage, none, phew, and placed both buds on the counter far from the toilet, vowing to never tempt fate like that again. As I finished drying off and getting dressed, the adrenaline crash hit hard. How had I been so careless? I knew electronics and water don't mix, yet I'd turned my morning into a high-stakes game of will it flush. I replayed the scene, the towel rub, the earbuds wild ride, the rim bouncing salvation. It was absurd, almost funny, but also a wake-up call. I'd been on autopilot, lost in my podcast, not thinking about the pricey tech in my ears or the open toilet nearby. My wife, still asleep, had no idea I'd nearly tanked our budget over a hair-drying mishap. This wasn't just a close call. It was a lesson in paying attention, especially when juggling gadgets in a bathroom full of hazards. I'd dodged a literal and financial disaster, but the incident left me rattled, wondering how such a small slip could spiral so fast. The bathroom was no longer just a shower zone. It was a minefield of potential fumbles. But the story wasn't over. That rogue earbud had more to teach me, and a twist was coming to drive the lesson home. Stick around because the next chapter's got a surprise that'll make you rethink your morning playlist. So I'm still recovering from the heart-pounding moment when my earbud nearly took a dive into the toilet during a vigorous hair-drying session, saved only by a lucky bounce off the rim. The close call left me rattled, vowing to keep my pricey gadgets far from bathroom hazards while questioning my autopilot morning routine. Part 2 is where I try to laugh it off and tighten up my habits, only to realize that small oversights can have bigger ripples than I thought. This is a story of caution, reflection, and a lesson in respecting the tech I take for granted. Let's dive back in. The adrenaline from the earbud incident lingered as I got dressed, double-checking that both buds were safely on the counter, far from the toilet's treacherous pull. I couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity. I'd turned a mundane morning into a scene from a slapstick comedy, complete with a slow-motion, oh shit, moment. But beneath the humor was a nagging unease. Those earbuds weren't cheap, and a flush down the drain would have meant weeks of ramen to replace them. Worse, I'd been so zoned out, lost in my podcast, that I hadn't even considered the risk. What else was I missing in my daily blur? I told my wife about it over breakfast, expecting her to laugh. She did, but with a raised eyebrow. "You had them in while drying your hair? By the toilet?" she said, stirring her coffee. "Babe, that's a recipe for disaster. You're lucky they didn't drown." Her teasing hit a nerve. She was right. I'd been careless, assuming my routine was bulletproof. She suggested I ditch the earbuds for shower time altogether. Maybe switch to a speaker at low volume to keep her sleep undisturbed. Or, dry your hair like a normal person, she added, grinning. Her advice was practical, but it stung to admit I'd been reckless with tech we couldn't easily replace. To understand my near miss, I Googled earbud mishaps and found a goldmine of horror stories. Earbuds drowned in sinks, crushed underfoot, even lost in washing machines. One forum thread warned that water damage is a top killer of wireless earbuds, with repairs often costing as much as new ones. Another post mentioned how open toilets are a magnet for falling objects. Phones, keys, you name it. It wasn't just me. Bathrooms were tech graveyards, and I'd almost added to the casualty list. The research drove home the stakes. My earbuds weren't just accessories, they were investments, and I needed to treat them like it. I started tweaking my routine, leaving the earbuds in the bedroom until I was fully dried and dressed, far from water hazards. I also checked my bathroom setup, moving the towel rack away from the toilet and keeping the lid down, a habit my wife had nagged about forever. It felt like overkill, but the memory of that bouncing earbud kept me paranoid. I even tested a low-volume speaker for my morning tunes, which worked without waking her. These changes were small but grounding, a reminder to stay present instead of coasting through my day. But the incident wasn't just about tech. It was about how easily I could slip into autopilot, ignoring risks right under my nose. I started noticing other habits, leaving my phone on the counter while cooking, wearing earbuds while biking. If a towel rub could nearly tank my earbuds, what else was I gambling with? The bathroom scare was a wake-up call to slow down, think, and respect the tools I rely on. But the story wasn't done. A surprise was coming, one that would show me the real cost of my carelessness and how to turn a near disaster into a smarter way forward. Hang on, because the next chapter's got a twist that'll make you rethink your morning jam session. So, I'm still shaken from the near catastrophe of almost losing an earbud to the toilet during a hair-drying frenzy, a wake-up call that's got me rethinking my autopilot morning routine and treating my tech with more respect. I've tweaked my habits, keeping earbuds out of the bathroom, closing the toilet lid, and switching to a low-volume speaker. But the adrenaline of that rim-bouncing scare lingers. Part 3 is where I think I've got it under control, only to face a moment that shows me the real stakes of my carelessness and the value of staying sharp. This is a story of vigilance, gratitude, and learning that small slip-ups can teach big lessons. Let's keep going. With my new bathroom routine locked, and I felt like I dodged a bullet and learned my lesson. No more earbuds near water, no more towel rubbing stunts, just cautious, lid-down, speaker-only mornings. I even started preaching to friends about tech safety, sharing my toilet tale over beers and getting laughs mixed with, "Dude, you're lucky" nods. My wife, now fully aware of my near miss, teased me mercilessly, calling me toilet DJ but praising my speaker switch. "See, you can be taught," she said, smirking. Her ribbing kept me humble, but I was proud of my changes, thinking I'd outsmarted my own clumsiness. To solidify my resolve, I dug deeper into earbud care, reading up on how to protect them from damage. Forums like Reddit's R Tech Support warned about humidity in bathrooms. Steam from showers can seep into electronics, causing corrosion over time. One post detailed a guy losing both earbuds to a sink splash with no warranty coverage for user error. It hit me that my close call wasn't just about the toilet. The whole bathroom was a danger zone for my $100 investment. I started storing my earbuds in a case in the bedroom, only bringing them out post-shower and checked their seals for wear. These steps felt like overkill, but the memory of that bouncing bud kept me diligent. I also noticed how the incident sharpened my focus beyond the bathroom. I was more mindful in other risky spots, keeping my phone away from stove splatter while cooking, securing my earbuds during runs. The scare had flipped a switch, making me see how often I'd coasted through life, assuming my tech could handle my carelessness. I even talked to my wife about it, admitting I'd been too casual with our gadgets. "You're growing up," she joked, but her smile said she appreciated the shift. It wasn't just about saving money, it was about respecting the tools we rely on and the budget we share. Then came the moment that drove it home. I was at a friend's house helping with a DIY project when his kid, maybe 5, grabbed my earbuds from the table, mistaking them for toys. Before I could react, he tossed one toward a sink full of soapy water. Flashbacks of the toilet incident hit, and I lunged, catching the bud midair like a budget-saving superhero. My friend laughed, apologizing, but I was shaken, realizing how fast disaster can strike. If I hadn't been hyper-aware post-toilet scare, I might have lost it to the sink. That kid's toss wasn't my fault, but it showed me how my new vigilance, born from the bathroom blunder, was already paying off. This wasn't just about earbuds anymore. It was about staying present in a world full of tiny risks. I'd dodged 2 disasters now, but I knew luck wouldn't always be on my side. The bathroom incident had rewired me to think ahead, protect what matters, and laugh at my own near misses. But the story wasn't done. A final twist was coming, one that would cement my gratitude for that rim-bouncing miracle and show me how to share the lesson. Stick around, because the last chapter's got a surprise that'll make you rethink your tech habits and those morning tunes. So, I've been humbled by the near disaster of almost flushing an earbud down the toilet during a hair-drying mishap. A wake-up call that's got me treating my tech with kid gloves and staying hyper-aware of my surroundings. I've ditched earbuds in the bathroom, adopted a speaker, and even saved my buds from a kid's sink-tossing antics, all thanks to the vigilance born from that rim-bouncing scare. Part 4 is where this soggy saga wraps up, with a twist that turns my close call into a chance to spread some wisdom and gratitude. This is a story of redemption, mindfulness, and a reminder that even dumb mistakes can spark smarter habits. Let's dry this one off. The weeks after the kid's near-sink toss felt like I'd earned a badge in tech survival. My earbuds were safe, my bathroom routine was ironclad, lid down, buds in the bedroom, speaker on low, and I was preaching caution to anyone who'd listen. My wife, now calling me Toilet DJ with affection, noticed the change. "You're actually thinking before you act," she said, half teasing, half impressed. I was proud, but the memory of that earbuds toilet dance kept me paranoid, a constant nudge to stay sharp. I'd dodged 2 disasters, but I knew my luck wasn't infinite, and I wanted to make sure this lesson stuck. To cement my new habits, I started sharing my story beyond my friend group, turning my embarrassment into a cautionary tale. At a coworker's game night, I recounted the saga, complete with dramatic hand gestures for the rim bounce, and got roars of laughter. But I also dropped some advice. Keep electronics away from water, close the toilet lid, check your surroundings. A few admitted their own near misses, like a phone slipping into a bathtub, and one guy vowed to rethink his shower speaker setup. It felt good to turn my cringe into a PSA, like I was paying back the universe for sparing my earbud. Then came the twist that made it all click. My wife and I were at a local electronics store browsing for a new speaker when I overheard a teen complaining to his mom about his earbuds. They're glitchy ever since I dropped them in the sink. I couldn't resist. I leaned over and said, "Been there, almost lost mine to a toilet. Keep 'em away from water, trust me." The kid laughed, and his mom thanked me, saying she'd been trying to drill that into him. The store clerk, eavesdropping, chimed in. "You wouldn't believe how many water-damaged returns we get. Toilets, sinks, pools, you name it." He offered me a discount on a waterproof case for my earbuds, calling it the Toilet Survivor Special. I took it, grinning, feeling like I'd joined a secret club of clumsy tech users. That store moment was a light bulb. My near miss wasn't just a personal flub. It was part of a universal struggle with tech in a world full of water hazards. I'd been lucky, but sharing my story was helping others avoid the same scare. I posted about it on a tech forum, titling it "How My Earbud Almost Swam with the Fishes," and got a flood of replies, some roasting my towel-rubbing genius, others sharing their own tales of drowned gadgets. One user suggested a habit I adopted: always do a tech check before any water-adjacent task, like confirming earbuds are stowed before drying hair. The post got traction, and I felt like I'd turned my dumb moment into a tiny force for good. Looking back, this bathroom blunder taught me more than I expected. I thought it was about saving my earbuds, but it was about waking up, staying present, respecting my tools, and owning my mistakes with a laugh. I'm more mindful now, not just in the bathroom, but everywhere. Cooking, biking, even working. My earbuds are pristine, stored in their new case, and my wife's proud of my grown-up vibes. I still jam to music in the morning, but via a speaker, far from the toilet's clutches. The clerk's discount and the forum's response were bonuses, proof that even a near disaster can spark connection and change. Now, when I dry my hair, I chuckle at the memory of that bouncing bud, grateful for the lesson it delivered. My wife still calls me Toilet DJ, and I wear it like a medal, a reminder to stay sharp and share the wisdom. If I ever feel the urge to pop in earbuds near water, I'll pause, set them safely aside, and thank the toilet gods for that rim-saving miracle. Electronics and water don't mix, but a good scare and a better story? That's a mix I'll take. Sometimes a moment of curiosity can turn a harmless prank into a costly catastrophe, especially when it involves someone else's tech. That's me, a 17-year-old guy thinking I'd found a cool school hack on Instagram, only to damage my sister's MacBook screen and land in hot water with my parents. This is the story of how a misguided attempt to test a viral trick went south, leaving me with a glitchy screen, a furious sister, and a lesson in thinking before acting. It's a tale of tech mishaps, family tension, and the perils of trusting social media stunts. Buckle up, because this one's a bumpy ride through a road trip gone wrong. It all started during a family road trip in our RV, a cramped adventure where boredom hits hard. I was sprawled on the couch, scrolling Instagram, Reels to kill time, when I stumbled across a video labeled New School Hack. In it, a kid rubbed the lid of an open AirPod case along the right side of his friend's laptop keyboard, making the screen flicker, go black, and sign out. The caption called it a magnet trick to mess with friends, and the comments were all, LOL, gotta try this. It looked harmless, like a digital party trick, and my teenage brain lit up with the urge to test it. My own laptop was buried in storage, but my sister's refurbished MacBook was sitting on the table, already a bit beat up with a small hole in the screen's bottom that she swore didn't affect it. I figured her MacBook was fair game, refurbished, slightly damaged, no big deal if I logged her out for a laugh. She was up front with my parents, so I opened the laptop, grabbed my AirPod case, and mimicked the reel, rubbing the case's lid along the right side of the keyboard, expecting a flicker and a logout. Instead, disaster struck. A few black horizontal lines appeared across the bottom fifth of the screen like digital scars. My stomach dropped. I froze, hoping they'd vanish, but they didn't. Panicking, I closed the laptop, opened it again, still there. I hadn't hit the screen, at least I didn't think so, but maybe I'd rubbed too fast, or the magnet trick was more destructive than the reel let on. Either way, I'd screwed up. My sister came back, saw me hovering over her MacBook, and immediately sensed trouble. "What did you do?" she snapped, grabbing it. I fessed up, stammering about the reel and the AirPod case, but she was already restarting the laptop, hoping to fix it. No luck. The line stayed. In a fit of frustration, she slammed her hand on the keyboard, and the line spread, now covering more of the screen. "You idiot," she yelled, loud enough for my parents to hear from the driver's seat. Dad pulled over and the interrogation began. I explained the reel, insisting I didn't mean to break anything. But my sister was livid, pointing out the MacBook was her lifeline for school. My parents, after inspecting the damage, declared I'd be paying for repairs once we got it assessed at a shop. "You broke it, you fix it," Mom said, her tone final. The RV was a pressure cooker for the rest of the day. My sister gave me the silent treatment. My parents lectured me about responsibility, and I sat there replaying the reel in my head, cursing my gullibility. The MacBook screen, now a mess of black lines, was a constant reminder of my mistake. I didn't know if the AirPod case's magnets caused it, if I'd accidentally bumped the screen, or if the laptop's pre-existing damage made it fragile. But the result was the same. I'd turned a road trip into a tech tragedy. I felt like the world's dumbest prankster, outsmarted by a 15-second video and my own impulsiveness. This wasn't just a broken screen. It was a wake-up call about consequences, trust, and the dangers of viral hacks. I'd thought I was pulling a harmless stunt, but I'd damaged my sister's tool and my family's patience. The road trip was far from over, and so was this mess. A twist was coming, one that would show me the real cost of my actions and how to start making it right. Stick around, because the next chapter's got a surprise that'll make you rethink those Instagram reels. So I'm still reeling from the disaster of trying to pull a viral school hack from an Instagram reel, rubbing my AirPod case on my sister's MacBook keyboard, only to cause black horizontal lines to scar the screen. My sister's furious my parents are holding me responsible for repair costs, and our family RV road trip has turned into a mobile courtroom. Part 2 is where I try to make sense of my mistake and start damage control, only to learn that impulsive actions have deeper consequences than a broken screen. This is a story of regret, accountability, and a lesson in respecting other people's tech. Let's hit the road again. The RV was a tense bubble after the MacBook incident. My sister, normally chatty, was icing me out, her glares sharper than the screen's glitchy lines. My parents kept the lectures coming, hammering home that I'd crossed a line by messing with her laptop without permission. "It's not just a prank," Dad said, eyes on the highway. "That's her schoolwork, her lifeline. You need to own this." I nodded, guilt gnawing at me. The MacBook, already refurbished with a small hole in the screen, was her prized possession, and I'd turned it into a digital casualty. I kept replaying the reel in my head, wondering how a harmless trick had gone so wrong. Was it the AirPod case's magnets, a too hard rub, or just bad luck on a fragile machine? To figure it out, I snuck some Wi-Fi time on my phone and Googled AirPod case MacBook screen damage. The results were a mixed bag. Some tech forums mentioned magnets in AirPod cases being too weak to affect modern laptops, but others warned that strong magnets near screens could disrupt display panels, especially on older or damaged models. One post on a site like iFixit suggested physical pressure, like an accidental bump, could crack internal connections, causing lines like the ones I saw. I couldn't be sure if I'd hit the screen in my zeal or if the magnet trick was a scam, but either way I'd messed up. The reel's comments, all LOL works every time, now felt like a trap I'd walked into blind. I tried apologizing to my sister, catching her alone in the RV's back seat. "I'm so sorry," I said, voice low. "I thought it'd just log you out, not break anything." She scoffed, not looking up from her phone. "You didn't think at all. I need that laptop for finals and now it's half dead. Fix it or I'm not forgiving you." Her words stung, but she was right. I hadn't thought, not about her, not about the risks. I promised to cover the repairs, though my savings were thin from buying games and snacks. I texted a friend who's into tech, asking if rebooting or software tweaks could fix the lines. He replied, "Sounds like hardware damage. Take it to a shop ASAP." My heart sank. Hardware meant money, and I was already in debt to my parents' trust. Desperate to show I was serious, I offered to do my sister's chores for the rest of the trip. Dishes, sweeping, anything to ease her load. She shrugged, unimpressed, but took the deal, muttering, "Doesn't fix my screen." My parents noticed my effort and softened slightly, Mom saying, "It's a start, but you need to follow through." I spent the next day researching repair costs, finding estimates for MacBook screen fixes ranging from $200 to $600, depending on the model and damage. My part-time job at a fast food joint wasn't going to cover that easily, and I started brainstorming ways to earn extra cash, mowing lawns, selling old clothes, anything to chip away at the bill. This wasn't just about the MacBook anymore. It was about trust, responsibility, and learning that social media hacks aren't always what they seem. I'd let a reel cloud my judgment, and now I was paying for it, literally and emotionally. The RV's hum couldn't drown out my sister's resentment or my own regret. But I was determined to make it right, even if it meant eating ramen for months. But the story wasn't over. A moment was coming that would shift my perspective and show me how to rebuild what I'd broken, screen and all. Stick around because the next chapter's got a twist that'll make you rethink those viral pranks. So I'm still grappling with the fallout from my disastrous attempt to pull off an Instagram school hack by rubbing my AirPod case on my sister's MacBook keyboard, which left her screen plagued with black horizontal lines. My sister's livid, my parents are demanding I pay for repairs, and our RV road trip feels like a rolling guilt trip. I've started doing her chores and researching repair costs, but the weight of my impulsiveness is sinking in. Part 3 is where I dig deeper into fixing this mess, only to face a moment that reveals the true cost of my actions beyond the price tag. This is a story of accountability, family trust, and learning to question viral stunts. Let's keep moving. The RV's tense atmosphere didn't let up. My sister's silent treatment was brutal, her occasional glares reminding me of the MacBook's ruined screen, now a fifth covered in black lines, unusable for her schoolwork. My parents, while softer after my chore efforts, held firm. ID? Cover the repair bill, no excuses. Estimates I'd found online, $200 to $600, loomed over my meager savings, and I was already mentally rationing my fast food job wages. I kept digging into what went wrong, scouring tech forums like iFixit and Reddit's r/Mac. Some posts suggested magnets could mess with older LCD screens, but others pointed to physical damage, especially on refurbished models like hers, where a pre-existing hole might have weakened the display. I still wasn't sure if my rub was too hard or the hack was a lie, but the truth stung. I trusted a reel without questioning it. I doubled down on making amends, offering my sister more than chores. "I'll help with your assignments," I said, knowing she was stressed about finals. She rolled her eyes but accepted, letting me type notes on my phone while she dictated. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was progress. I also called a local repair shop describing the lines and the hole in the screen. The tech quoted $300 minimum, warning that the damage might require a full display replacement. "Bring it in when you're back," he said. I thanked him, stomach churning, and started a savings plan. No more impulse buys, extra shifts at work, maybe tutoring on weekends. My parents noticed my hustle, Mom saying, "You're trying, but trust takes time." Her words hit hard. I'd broken more than a screen. I'd dented my sister's faith in me. To clear my head, I talked to my tech-savvy friend Jake, texting him the whole saga. "Dude, that reel was probably fake," he said. "Magnets don't do that unless they're industrial strength. You might have bumped it or the screen was already shot." He sent me a YouTube video debunking similar hack reels where influencers exaggerated effects for clout. Watching it, I felt duped. Those LOL try this comments had suckered me into thinking it was safe. Jake's advice was blunt. Stop believing every video you see and apologize again, but mean it. His words echoed what I was starting to realize. My impulsiveness wasn't just a prank gone wrong, it was a habit I needed to break. I took Jake's advice, catching my sister during a quiet moment in the RV. "I messed up big," I said, looking her in the eye. "I didn't mean to ruin your laptop and I'm saving to fix it. I should have asked you first. I'm really sorry." She didn't hug me, but her face softened. "Just don't touch my stuff again," she said. "And yeah, you're paying." It wasn't warm, but it was a crack in the ice, and I clung to it. I kept researching, learning that refurbished MacBooks can have hidden flaws, making them prone to issues like screen lines from minor impacts. It didn't excuse me, but it explained why her laptop might have been a ticking time bomb, one I'd set off. This wasn't just about repair costs anymore. It was about rebuilding trust and learning to think critically, especially about social media's shiny promises. I'd let a reel override my common sense, and my sister paid the price. But a moment was coming that would show me how to turn this tech wreck into a step toward maturity, for both of us. Stick around because the next chapter's got a twist that'll make you rethink those harmless viral tricks. So I've been navigating the wreckage of my failed attempt to pull off an Instagram school hack by rubbing my AirPod case on my sister's MacBook keyboard, which left her screen marred with black horizontal lines and our family RV road trip steeped in tension. I've been hustling to make amends, doing her chores, saving for the $300+ repair bill, and learning that viral reels aren't always trustworthy. while grappling with the deeper cost to our trust. Part 4 is where this tech-fueled fiasco finds its resolution, with a twist that turns my blunder into a chance to rebuild and grow. This is a story of redemption, responsibility, and a reminder that even dumb mistakes can spark smarter choices. Let's wrap it up. The RV trip ended, but the MacBook drama didn't. My sister's laptop, now barely usable with a fifth of the screen blacked out, was a constant reminder of my screw-up. She'd softened slightly after my heartfelt apology and chore marathon, but her trust was still on life support. My parents held firm. I'd pay for the repairs, no debate. I'd been picking up extra shifts at my fast food job and exploring side hustles like tutoring, but the repair quote, confirmed at $350 after a shop visit, loomed large. I was determined, though, not just to fix the screen, but to prove I wasn't the reckless kid who'd fallen for a reel. To stay grounded, I kept researching the damage, diving into tech forums like iFixit and RMac. Posts confirmed that refurbished MacBooks like hers can have weak display connectors, especially with pre-existing damage like the screen's hole. My AirPod case likely didn't have strong enough magnets to cause the lines. It was probably a physical bump or the laptop's fragility. Knowing this didn't erase my guilt but clarified my mistake. I'd acted without checking facts, assuming a viral hack was legit. I swore off unverified social media stunts, unfollowing accounts that peddled sketchy tricks and sticking to reputable tech sources. My friend Jake, who'd called out the reel's fakeness, became my go-to for debunking online nonsense. Then came the twist that tied it all together. At the repair shop, dropping off the MacBook, the technician recognized me from school. He was an alum who'd started a side business fixing student laptops. "Heard about your AirPod stunt," he said, chuckling. "You're not the first to fall for those reels." Embarrassed but curious, I asked if he'd seen similar damage. He nodded, explaining that refurbished MacBooks often cut corners, making them prone to screen issues from minor impacts. "Yours wasn't the worst," he said. "I'll fix it for $300 if you help spread the word about my shop." I jumped at the deal, not just for the discount, but because it felt like a chance to turn my mess into something positive. I kept my promise, posting about his shop on our school's Discord and Instagram, warning about fake hacks and refurbished tech risks. The post got traction. Classmates shared their own tech horror stories, and a few booked repairs with him. My sister, seeing my effort, thawed further, even joking, "You're still an idiot, but at least you're useful now." We started teaming up on her assignments using my laptop while hers was fixed, and it felt like we were rebuilding, not just coexisting. My parents, impressed by my hustle, offered to cover half the repair if I kept up my job, a gesture that felt like a lifeline. I accepted, vowing to pay them back with interest. The shop fixed the MacBook in a week, screen pristine, no more lines. My sister tested it, grinned, and said, "Okay, you're off my hit list for now." It wasn't a full reset, but it was close. The experience rewired me. I'd learned to question social media, respect others' belongings, and own my mistakes without wallowing. I kept working, saving for a rainy day, and started a notebook for tech tips, like check laptop specs before buying refurbished. My sister and I aren't besties, but we're better, sharing memes and the occasional RV snack. The reel that started it all? Deleted from my mind, replaced by a hard-earned mantra. Think first, swipe later. Now, when I see my AirPod case, I laugh, not at the hack, but at the kid I was and the one I'm becoming. The MacBook's fixed, my sister's smiling, and I'm wiser, ready for the next road trip with no tech tricks in sight. If I ever feel the urge to test a viral stunt, I'll pause, Google, and probably just watch a movie instead. Mistakes break things, but owning them builds something stronger. Sometimes a bid to look cool can spiral into a public humiliation so vivid it feels scripted for a sitcom. That's me, at a trendy cafe near my office, trying to channel a mysterious vibe to catch a girl's eye, only to end up choking on a cinnamon stick in a chai latte I didn't even want. This is the story of how my attempt at a main character moment turned into a coughing catastrophe, earning me a nickname and a lesson in humility. It's a tale of misplaced swagger, spicy missteps, and the perils of trying too hard. Buckle up, because this one's a cringeworthy ride through a latte-fueled fiasco. It all went down at a new cafe that's all exposed brick and artisanal vibes, the kind of place where everyone looks like they're auditioning for an indie film. I was set up at a table, headphones in, playing nothing, laptop open to a blank dock, and a latte in hand, cultivating my best, thoughtful, creative aura. Across from me was a girl, cute, glasses, nose in a book, who seemed like the perfect audience for my performance. I decided this was my chance to shine, to lock eyes, flash a half smile, and maybe spark a rom-com-worthy moment. Step 1. Order something to elevate my image. I scanned the menu and picked a chai latte, thinking it screamed worldly and deep, despite never drinking chai in my life. The barista brought it in a glass mug, steaming and aesthetic, with a cinnamon stick floating on top like a prop from a Pinterest board. I felt like a poet, ready to make my move. I took a sip. Hot, spicy, not my thing, but I powered through, glancing at the girl for that magic eye contact. No dice. She was glued to her book. Undeterred, I leaned into the vibe, adjusting my headphones and typing nonsense to look busy. Another sip, still burning, but I was committed. I angled my chair slightly, hoping she'd notice my curated coolness. Then, in a fateful moment of overconfidence, I took a big gulp, aiming for that casual, I drink chai all the time, energy. Disaster struck. The cinnamon stick, bobbing innocently, shot into my mouth and lodged sideways in my throat. This wasn't a dainty cough, it was a full-on, red-faced, can't-breathe choke. My eyes watered, my hands flailed, and I tried to cough it out while covering my mouth, looking like I was auditioning for a slow-motion death scene. The cafe turned into a stage. Heads swiveled, the barista froze mid-pour, and the girl, oh, she was staring wide-eyed, book forgotten. I was dying, or at least felt like it, as the stick scraped my throat. With a desperate heave, I spat it into a tissue, a soggy mess of chai and shame, and gasped for air, my face a tomato. The aftermath was brutal. The cafe went quiet, then buzzed with whispers. I tried to play it off, wiping my mouth and sipping water like nothing happened, but the damage was done. The girl gave me a polite, pained smile, pity, not romance, and promptly packed up and left. I sat there, chai cooling, ego shattered, as the barista slid me a free water with a sympathetic, "You okay, chai guy?" The nickname stung, but I nodded, muttering, "Yeah, fine." I wasn't fine. I'd gone from mysterious stranger to choking spectacle in minutes, and my rom-com had turned into a cringe compilation. This wasn't just a spicy mishap. It was a wake-up call about authenticity, overthinking, and the risks of chasing an image. I'd tried to be someone I wasn't, and the cinnamon stick had called my bluff. The cafe, once my stage, was now a crime scene of my failed flirt, and I was left wondering how to salvage my dignity. But the story wasn't over. That soggy stick had more to teach me, and a twist was coming to put it all in perspective. Stick around, because the next chapter's got a surprise that'll make you rethink those cafe daydreams. So, I'm still recovering from the mortifying moment at the cafe where I tried to impress a girl with a chai latte vibe, only to choke spectacularly on a cinnamon stick in front of her and the entire room, earning the nickname Chai Guy, and a swift exit from my would-be crush. The humiliation has me questioning my life choices and vowing never to fake a persona again. Part 2 is where I try to shake off the shame and reclaim my dignity, only to realize that my cafe catastrophe has left a deeper mark than I thought. This is a story of self-reflection, awkward recovery, and a lesson in being myself no matter the setting. Let's brew up the next chapter. The day after the cinnamon stick debacle, I couldn't even look at a coffee mug without cringing. The cafe, once my go-to spot for work and daydreams, felt like a stage where I'd bombed my big scene. I kept replaying the moment. The choking, the stares, the girl's pitying smile as she bolted. My attempt to seem cultural and deep with a chai latte had backfired so hard I was ready to swear off dating and stick to instant coffee for life. I told my best friend Alex over a call, expecting sympathy. Instead, he howled with laughter. "Chai Guy, dude, that's legendary. You gotta own it." His advice was to go back to the cafe, face the baristas, and laugh it off. "You can't hide forever," he said. "Besides, it's a funny story. Alex's words stuck, but I wasn't ready to face the scene of my crime. Instead, I holed up at home, Googling how to recover from public embarrassment and finding tips like reframe the story as a funny anecdote and focus on what you learned. Easier said than done when I could still feel the cinnamon stick scraping my throat. I also looked up chai latte mishaps, curious if I was alone. A few Reddit threads on our TIFU mentioned similar cafe fails, spilling drinks, mispronouncing menu items, but none involved choking on a garnish. One post warned about cinnamon sticks in drinks, noting they're not meant to be swallowed, which made me feel dumber but validated. Clearly, I wasn't the only one tripped up by trendy drinks. To rebuild my confidence, I decided to practice authenticity. Starting small, I ditched the headphones in No Music Act and worked at a different coffee shop, ordering my usual black coffee instead of performative chai. It felt liberating, like shedding a costume. I also journaled about why I'd tried so hard to impress that girl. I wasn't in love. I just wanted to feel like someone. The cool guy in a movie, not the regular me who trips over words and prefers podcasts to parties. Realizing that helped me ease up on myself. I wasn't a failure. I was just human, trying too hard in a world that rewards Instagram-worthy moments. I knew I had to return to the cafe eventually, if only to prove I wasn't defeated. A week later, I mustered the courage, heart pounding as I walked in. The barista who'd given me water recognized me, grinning. "Chai guy, back for round 2? I laughed, surprising myself, and said, "Just coffee today, no sticks." The exchange was light, and no one else seemed to care, which was a relief. I sat in my usual spot, worked, and felt a weight lift. The cafe wasn't haunted anymore. It was just a place, and I was just me, minus the fake vibe. I didn't see the girl, which was probably for the best, but I left feeling like I'd reclaimed a piece of my pride. This wasn't just about surviving a choke. It was about learning to drop the act and embrace my quirks, even if they're not cafe cool. I'd tried to script a moment and got a reality check instead, but I was starting to see the humor in it, like Alex said. But the story wasn't done. A chance encounter was about to bring the cinnamon stick saga full circle, showing me how to turn my shame into a strength. Stick around because the next chapter's got a twist that'll make you rethink those coffee shop crushes. So I'm still wincing from the cafe catastrophe where I choked on a cinnamon stick in a chai latte, trying to impress a girl and instead earning the nickname Chai Guy and a room full of stares. I've returned to the scene, embraced my regular coffee drinking self, and started to see the humor in my flop. But the sting of that public humiliation lingers. Part 3 is where I think I'm moving past it, only to stumble into a moment that forces me to confront why I chased that fake vibe in the first place. This is a story of growth, honesty, and learning that authenticity beats a scripted moment every time. Let's keep sipping. Returning to the cafe was a small victory, but I wasn't fully over the cinnamon stick saga. Every time I saw a chai latte on the menu, my throat tightened and I'd flash back to that choking fit, the girl's pitying smile, the barista's, "You okay, chai guy?" I was better, ordering black coffee, laughing off the nickname, but I kept wondering why I'd tried so hard to be someone else. I confided in Alex, my friend who'd pushed me to own the story. "You wanted to feel like a big shot," he said over tacos. "But you're already cool, just not in a chai drinking way. Why fake it?" His bluntness hit home. I wasn't a poet or a rom-com lead. I was me, and that should have been enough. To unpack it, I dug into why I'd felt the need to perform. Social media didn't help. Instagram's polished cafe shots and TikTok's main character vibes had me thinking I needed a persona to stand out. A quick scroll through RR social skills on Reddit revealed others felt the same pressure, with posts about faking confidence to impress crushes only to crash and burn. One user wrote, "Pretending to be someone else just makes you forget who you are." That stuck with me. I'd ordered chai to seem deep, but it wasn't me. It was a costume, and the cinnamon stick was the universe ripping it off. I started listing things I genuinely liked: podcasts, bad puns, hiking. If I was going to charm anyone, it'd be as that guy, not a latte poser. I tested this at work, dropping the mysterious act during coffee runs with colleagues. Instead of curating my order, I got my usual and cracked jokes about my chai disaster, which got laughs and started real conversations. One coworker, a cafe regular, shared her own spill story, making me feel less alone. It was freeing. No script, just me, and people responded better than they ever had to my headphone charade. I also swore off cinnamon sticks for good, sticking to drinks I knew, like a boring but safe Americano. The cafe baristas, now friendly, stopped calling me chai guy after I owned the tale, and I felt like I was rewriting my story on my terms. Then came the moment that sharpened my focus. I was back at the cafe, working, when a guy at the next table ordered a chai latte with a cinnamon stick. My stomach flipped, but I watched, curious. He sipped carefully, avoiding the stick, and I realized I could have done the same if I'd been less caught up in looking cool. I struck up a chat, saying, "Careful with that stick, I nearly died choking on one." He laughed and we swapped cafe fail stories, bonding over our mutual distrust of trendy garnishes. It was the first time I'd talked to a stranger there, without a fake vibe, and it felt right, easy, real, no choking required. I left the cafe smiling, not because I'd impressed anyone, but because I'd been myself. This wasn't just about surviving a spice-induced choke. It was about learning to ditch the act and trust my own rhythm. I'd let social media's gloss convince me I needed to be more, but the girl's exit and the cafe's stares taught me that authenticity is the real flex. But the story wasn't done. A final encounter was coming, one that would seal my lesson and show me how to carry this forward cinnamon-free. Stick around, because the last chapter's got a twist that'll make you rethink those cafe poses and who you're really impressing. So, I've been piecing myself back together after choking on a cinnamon stick and a chai latte at a trendy cafe, a humiliating attempt to impress a girl that earned me the nickname Chai Guy, and a swift exit from my would-be crush. I've embraced my authentic self, ditched the fake, mysterious vibe, and started owning the story with humor. But the memory of that public flop still stings. Part 4 is where this spicy saga finds its resolution, with a twist that transforms my embarrassment into a moment of connection and confidence. This is a story of redemption, self-acceptance, and a reminder that even the worst moments can brew something better. Let's finish this latte. The cafe was no longer a crime scene, but a place I could enter without wincing, thanks to my shift to black coffee and real conversations. I'd stopped chasing Instagram-worthy moments, focusing instead on what I liked: podcasts, hikes, bad puns, and sharing my choking tale as a funny anecdote rather than a shame spiral. My friends, led by Alex, kept the chai guy jokes coming, but they also noticed my change. "You're chill now," Alex said at a game night. "No more pretending to be a chai poet." His approval meant more than I expected, a sign I was on the right track. I even ventured back to the cafe regularly, bantering with the baristas who'd retired my nickname, feeling like I'd reclaimed my spot. Then came the twist that sealed the lesson. I was at the cafe, working on a project, when I noticed a familiar face at the counter, the girl from the choking incident ordering a tea. My heart skipped, but not with panic. I was curious, not crushed. She saw me, gave a small wave, and to my shock, walked over. "You're the chai guy, right?" she said, a playful glint in her eye. I laughed, ready to lean into it. "Yeah, that's me. Nearly died for a latte." She grinned, introducing herself as Emma, and said, "I felt so bad for you that day, but you handled it like a champ." My jaw dropped. She hadn't been pitying me. She'd been impressed by my recovery. We chatted, no pretenses this time. I admitted I'd ordered the chai to seem cool, and she laughed, saying she'd done similar things like ordering matcha to look sophisticated, despite hating it. "We're all faking it sometimes," she said, and we swapped stories of cafe fails. Hers involved spilling a smoothie mid-date. There was no flirty spark, just a real connection, the kind I'd missed by posing as someone else. She had to run, but we exchanged Instagrams, not as a crush, but as two people who'd laughed at their own flops. I left the cafe buzzing, not because I'd won her over, but because I'd been myself, pun-cracking, chai-averse me. and it felt better than any scripted moment. This encounter flipped the script. I'd thought the cinnamon stick had ruined my shot, but it had paved the way for something genuine, a conversation I wouldn't have had if I'd stayed in my fake vibe. I started carrying that confidence everywhere. Work, hikes, even new coffee shops. I shared my story more, posting a lighthearted Chai Guy survival guide on Reddit's TIFU, warning about cinnamon sticks and performative orders. It got upvotes and comments like, "Been there, spilled that," making me feel part of a clumsy human club. I also tweaked my habits, avoiding garnished drinks and checking menus for surprise sticks before ordering, a small nod to my hard-earned wisdom. Looking back, that choke was more than a fail. It was a gift, stripping away my need to perform and showing me that my real self was enough. The cafe's now my happy place, where I sip Americanos and swap stories, no headphones required. Emma and I message occasionally, sharing memes, not soulmates, but proof that authenticity opens doors. My friends still call me Chai Guy, and I wear it proudly, a badge of surviving my own ego. If I ever see a cinnamon stick, I'll steer clear, but I'll smile, knowing it taught me to drop the act and brew my own kind of cool. Now, when I'm at a cafe, I don't scan for crushes. I just work, laugh, and enjoy the moment. The girl, the stick, the choke, they're all part of a story I tell with a grin, a reminder that the best moments aren't staged. They're messy, real, and sometimes a little spicy, just like me. Sometimes a well-meaning leap at opportunity can land you in a moment of profound discomfort, exposing gaps in awareness and igniting a storm of self-doubt. That's me, a white woman, unemployed and eager, walking into a networking event I thought was open to all, only to realize it was hosted by a network for Black professionals in my industry. This is the story of how my failure to research turned a career hope into a spiral of guilt, forcing me to confront my privilege and learn what allyship really means. It's a tale of missteps, heartfelt intentions, and the messy path to doing better. Buckle up, because this one's a raw ride through embarrassment and growth. I'd been jobless for months, scraping by on savings and desperation. So when I saw a LinkedIn post about a networking event for my industry, I didn't hesitate. The post described it as open to everyone working in my field looking to network with roles like mine, hosted by a group at another company's venue. I RSVP'd via the email link, thrilled at the chance to connect with peers and maybe land a lead. I didn't dig deeper into the host, a network for Black professionals in my industry. That oversight was my first mistake, born of excitement and a touch of naivety, and it set the stage for a humbling wake-up call. I showed up to the venue, blonde hair and all, expecting a typical industry mixer. The room was buzzing, filled with Black professionals, stylish, confident, swapping business cards. The signage hit me like a brick. Black Industry Network. My stomach dropped. I'd misread the event entirely, assuming open to everyone meant no specific focus. I stood out, not just as a newcomer, but as someone who didn't belong in this space. Two choices flashed: slip out with a fake excuse, risking offense by looking like I didn't want to be there, or stay, listen, and network with an open mind, hoping to learn and contribute as an ally. I chose to stay, heart pounding, praying. I wasn't intruding. The hosts were warm, welcoming me with smiles, and the attendees I spoke to were gracious, sharing insights about our field. I networked, focusing on listening, especially to junior professionals, hoping to offer mentorship tips as a way to give back. But guilt gnawed at me. Had I taken a spot from someone who needed this space more? Was my presence making it less safe, less comfortable? I smiled through conversations, but inside I was unraveling, hyper-aware of my whiteness in a room built for Black excellence. When a father introduced his teenage daughter, there to see role models like her in our underrepresented industry, my heart sank. The event had a wait list, and I couldn't shake the thought that I'd stolen a ticket from someone like her. I left shaken, crying the entire hour-long commute home, mortified by my ignorance. I hadn't researched the host, hadn't questioned the event's purpose, and now I feared I'd made a space less inclusive just by showing up. Should I email the hosts to apologize, explaining my mistake and regret for taking a spot? Or would that center my guilt, burdening them further, had staying been brave or clueless? I posted about it online, seeking perspective, and the responses, some kind, some amused, helped me see it might have been more confusing than offensive, but the father's daughter haunted me. I wasn't in the US where these dynamics might differ, but that didn't ease my shame. This wasn't just a social blunder, it was a crash course in privilege, research, and the weight of unintended impact. I'd walked into a space not meant for me, driven by opportunity but blind to context, and now I was left grappling with how to make it right without making it worse. The networking connections were great, but they came with a lesson I hadn't signed up for. But the story wasn't over. A moment was coming that would shift my guilt into action, showing me how to move forward with humility. Stick around because the next chapter's got a twist that'll make you rethink those RSVPs and what they really mean. So I'm still reeling from the mortifying realization that I, a white woman, walked into a networking event for Black professionals in my industry, mistaking it for a general industry mixer due to a LinkedIn post's vague wording. The guilt of potentially taking a spot from someone who needed that space, especially after meeting a father and his teenage daughter there, sent me into a tearful spiral. I chose to stay, network, and listen, but I'm questioning if I should apologize to the hosts or let it go. Part 2 is where I try to process my shame and make sense of my choice, only to learn that good intentions don't erase impact. This is a story of humility, accountability, and the work of becoming a better ally. Let's keep going. The days after the event were a haze of overthinking. I couldn't shake the image of the father and his daughter, there to see Black role models in an industry where people of color, especially Black women, are underrepresented. The event's waitlist haunted me. Had I taken a spot from a young woman like her? My emotional reaction crying the whole commute home wasn't new. I've always felt things deeply, something I'm working on, but this felt heavier. I'd entered a space meant to uplift Black professionals, and my presence, however well-intentioned, might have shifted its safety or focus. I kept rereading the LinkedIn post, kicking myself for not researching the host, a network for Black industry folks. How had I been so careless? I turned to online forums for perspective, posting my story anonymously on a platform like Reddit's TIFU. The responses were a mix. Some found it funny, calling it a classic blunder, and assuring me it was likely just confusing, not harmful. Others gently pointed out that staying might have centered my comfort over the room's purpose. One commenter, identifying as Black, wrote, "It's not the end of the world, but next time, check the host and maybe step back if it's not your space." Their kindness eased my panic, but the advice stung. I hadn't considered leaving as a form of respect. Another suggested reaching out to the hosts, not to apologize profusely but to acknowledge the mistake and commit to learning. I wasn't sure if that would help or burden them, so I held off, still torn. To ground myself, I researched allyship, diving into articles on sites like Harvard Business Review about supporting underrepresented groups in professional settings. One piece emphasized listening over speaking and amplifying marginalized voices without taking their space. Exactly what I'd tried to do, but imperfectly. Another, from a career blog, stressed researching events to understand their intent, a step I'd skipped in my jobless desperation. I also reflected on my choice to stay. I'd wanted to learn, to be an ally. But had I made it about my growth instead of the room's needs? The father's daughter kept coming to mind, a reminder that my ticket might have meant more to someone else. I tested the waters by talking to a work friend, Priya, who's South Asian and navigates similar industry spaces. Over coffee, I spilled the story, bracing for judgment. "You didn't mean harm," she said. "But yeah, you should have checked. Staying was brave, but leaving might have been braver. It shows you get the space's purpose." Her perspective was a gut punch, but she added, "The host welcomed you, so don't beat yourself up forever. Learn and do better." Priya suggested volunteering for diversity initiatives in our field to channel my guilt into action, like mentoring young professionals of color. It felt like a way forward, turning my mistake into something constructive. This wasn't just about one event. It was about recognizing my privilege and the responsibility to move through spaces thoughtfully. I'd been so focused on my job hunt I'd missed the bigger picture. Not every opportunity is mine to take. The connections I made were valuable, but they came with a lesson in humility I hadn't expected. I was starting to see how to balance my intentions with impact, but the story wasn't done. A moment was coming that would push me to act on this lesson, showing me how to make amends without centering myself. Stick around, because the next chapter's got a twist that'll make you rethink those well-meaning RSVPs. So I'm still wrestling with the guilt of walking into a networking event for Black professionals as a white woman, misled by a vague LinkedIn post and my own failure to research the host. Choosing to stay in network left me with valuable connections, but a gnawing fear that I'd taken space from someone who needed it, like the teenage daughter of an attendee I met. I'm learning about allyship and questioning whether to apologize to the hosts, but the shame of my oversight is heavy. Part 3 is where I try to channel this into action, only to face a moment that deepens my understanding of impact over intent. This is a story of accountability, growth, and learning to navigate privilege with care. Let's dive back in. The weight of the event clung to me like damp clothes. I couldn't stop picturing the father and his daughter, there to see Black women thriving in our industry, and the wait list that meant my ticket might have edged out someone like her. My friend Priya's advice, learn, don't hide, and contribute, gave me a path, but I was still paralyzed by the thought of emailing the hosts. Would an apology clarify my mistake or burden them with my guilt? I kept reading online feedback from my anonymous post, where some saw my presence as a non-issue, even funny, while others urged me to reflect on why I'd assumed the space was mine. One commenter's words stuck. Intentions don't erase outcomes. Focus on what you do next. That shifted my focus from wallowing to doing. I dove deeper into allyship, reading books like So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijoma Oluo, which emphasized amplifying marginalized voices without occupying their platforms. I also found a blog on Medium about navigating professional spaces as an ally, stressing the importance of researching event hosts to respect their mission. These reinforced what I'd missed. The Black Networks event was about creating a safe space for Black professionals, and my presence, however welcomed, might have diluted that. I journaled my thoughts, admitting I'd been job-hungry and blind to context, not malicious but careless. The father's daughter became my mental anchor, a reminder to prioritize impact over my feelings. To test my learning, I reached out to Priya again, asking how I could support diversity in our field. Without overstepping, she suggested joining our industry's Diversity Council, which mentors young professionals of color, and sharing job leads with underrepresented candidates. I signed up for the council's newsletter and started following Black-led industry groups on LinkedIn, not to invade but to amplify their posts, job openings, webinars, success stories. It felt small but intentional, a way to give back without centering myself. I also practiced saying no to events that weren't for me, like declining a women-only tech mixer after confirming its focus, a choice that felt empowering, not limiting. Then came the moment that crystallized it all. At a general industry meetup, I ran into one of the event hosts, a warm woman named Lena, who'd welcomed me that night. My heart raced, but I took a breath and approached her. I was at your network's event, I said, voice shaky. I didn't realize it was for Black professionals and felt awful for not researching. I learned so much, but I'm sorry if I took space from someone. Lena's smile was kind. You were respectful, and we meant open literally, she said. But yeah, space is tight, and intent matters less than preparation. Keep learning, and share what you know. Her grace was a relief, but her candor hit home. My mistake hadn't ruined the event, but it had ripple effects I hadn't seen. This wasn't just about one RSVP, it was about building a habit of awareness, checking my assumptions and acting with purpose. Lena's words pushed me to keep going, not to shrink from discomfort but to use it as fuel. I'd made connections at the event, but the real value was the lesson in humility and the chance to do better. But the story wasn't done. A final encounter was coming, one that would show me how to turn this guilt into lasting change and honor the space I'd entered by mistake. Stick around, because the last chapter's got a twist that'll make you rethink those quick clicks and what they cost. So I've been grappling with the shame of mistakenly attending a networking event for Black professionals as a white woman, misled by a vague LinkedIn post and my failure to research the host. Staying to network and learn left me with connections but a lingering fear that I'd disrupted a safe space, especially for a teenage girl like the one I met, whose father brought her to see role models. My brief talk with a host, Lena, eased some guilt, but underscored the need to prepare and prioritize impact. Part 4 is where this humbling saga finds resolution, with a twist that turns my misstep into a catalyst for meaningful change. This is a story of redemption, allyship, and a reminder that mistakes can fuel growth if you face them head-on. Let's close it out. The encounter with Lena was a turning point, her grace and candor showing me that my mistake hadn't derailed the event, but had ripple effects I needed to address. I leaned harder into allyship, joining our industry's diversity council and volunteering to mentor young professionals of color. As Priya suggested, I shared job postings from Black-led groups on LinkedIn, amplifying opportunities without inserting myself into their spaces. It felt like a start, but the image of the father's daughter stayed with me, a reminder of the wait list and the spot I'd taken. I wanted to do more, not to erase my guilt, but to honor the event's purpose and ensure others like her had access. I kept reflecting on Lena's advice. Keep learning, share what you know, and dug into resources like White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo, which challenged me to confront my discomfort and act despite it. A webinar from a career site emphasized mentoring as a way to level the playing field in underrepresented fields, so I signed up for a program pairing industry veterans with high school students. I also started a habit of triple-checking event hosts before RSVPing, a simple step to avoid repeating my error. These actions weren't flashy, but they grounded me, turning my embarrassment into a quiet commitment to do better. Then came the twist that brought it full circle. At a diversity council meeting, I was paired with a mentor coordinator named AITA, who, to my shock, had been at the Black Network event. I braced myself, but when I mentioned my mistake, she laughed warmly. "Oh, you're the blonde who looked terrified," she said. "No harm done. You listened, you engaged, and you didn't make it about you. That's more than some do." I confessed my guilt about the waitlist, especially the teenage girl, and Aisha's face softened. "That's why we do this work," she said. "But you being here now, mentoring, sharing resources, that's how you make space." She invited me to help promote their next event, not as an attendee but as a supporter, sharing flyers and boosting their reach. I jumped at the chance, posting about the event on LinkedIn and local industry groups, emphasizing its focus on Black professionals and linking to their mission. The response was strong. Several colleagues asked how to support, and Aisha later told me the event sold out with a bigger venue to accommodate the waitlist. I also mentored a high schooler through the council, a Black girl interested in my field, and shared tips from my job hunt, connecting her with contacts I'd met at the original event. It wasn't about fixing my mistake, but about amplifying others, and it felt right, like I was finally aligning my actions with the allyship I'd claimed to want. This saga taught me more than I expected. I'd walked into a space unprepared, driven by need but blind to privilege, and the guilt could have paralyzed me. Instead, it became a spark, to listen, learn, and act without centering myself. I'm not perfect, I'll stumble again, but I'm better equipped to check my assumptions and respect spaces not built for me. The connections I made are still active, and I'm job hunting with new clarity, knowing my worth doesn't hinge on taking every chance but on choosing the right ones. Aisha and I stay in touch, and I'm helping plan a mentorship workshop, inspired by that teenage girl who deserved her spot. Now, when I see a networking invite, I pause, research, and ask who it's for. The event's memory, my blonde hair, the signage, the father's daughter, isn't just shame, it's a compass guiding me to show up thoughtfully. I'm grateful for the host's grace, the online voices that shaped my perspective, and the chance to turn a blunder into a bridge. Mistakes don't define you, What you build from them does, and I'm building with purpose, one step at a time.